health and fitness tips in the car. So, right from the very beginning, if you're asking questions and you're not doing something already that those questions relate to, then start by just trying something. You're much better off doing something in the real world, and then only when you encounter a problem, ask a question about it. I have this story. It's called Just Sit Down in the Chair, and it goes like this. You're walking through a park one day and you see an old man sitting down on a nice park bench. It's like one of these wooden park benches, a little plaque on it. It says, this bench is in memory of a particular person. And he sat there on the bench and there's a little place next to him. And you want to sit down too. So you ask the man who's already sat on the chair and you say, hey, is it okay if I sit next to you here? And the old man, he's reading his newspaper and he looks over his newspaper and he says, it's fine, if you want to sit there, I don't mind. So you go, are you sure it's okay? And the old man goes, honestly, it's fine, go ahead. And you go, are you sure it'll take my weight? And the old man looks back up from his paper and he goes, seems sturdy enough to me. And so you go, well, what kind of wood is it made from? The old man goes, a teak, I think. So you go, are you sure it's okay for me to sit on a teak chair? Will I be able to get back up again? And the old man says, just sit down in the chair. Sometimes when you're asking questions, this is what it can be like. This is what it can feel like to the person you're asking the questions. A lot of the time, you'll find out almost all of the stuff that you want to know after you've just started doing the thing. And a lot of the time, you'll end up asking pointless questions, but you won't realize how irrelevant they are until you start just doing the thing which you set out to do. So the answer to every question is stop asking questions until you've started doing things in the real world. And that's because it's only when you encounter problems that you need to solve those problems with a question. If you haven't actually come against that problem yet, 9 times out of 10, you don't need to ask another question. You don't need to find out more information. You just need to do the thing. So I am going to answer a commonly asked question, but I want you to know that the first thing that you've got to do is do things in the real world before you start asking questions. So with that being said, here's a question that I get a lot, and I teased it in the last story I put out, and it's how long should I rest between sets? So let's say you have 3 sets of 8 bicep curls. You've done 1 set of 8. How long should you rest before you do the second set of 8? And the short answer is until you get your breath back. So the reason you rest between sets is to make it so that the actual muscle that you're working is the thing that's getting tired and stopping you from continuing to do more of that work. If on our bicep curl example, your bicep isn't very tired, but you're just really out of breath, so you can't do anymore and you have to stop because you're just gassed out, then your bicep isn't getting the most work it can possibly get because your lungs and your breathing in general, your respiratory system is the thing which is being taxed more than the bicep. Now this is fine when you're doing some kind of circuit workout where you're actually trying to get your heart rate up and get your aerobic fitness up just by doing a variety of exercises, and it doesn't really matter what those exercises are, it's just getting you out of puff, and that's going to improve your cardiovascular fitness. But when the aim is to work the biceps, you want to make absolutely sure that the biceps are being worked and other systems in the body aren't the thing which is stopping you from being able to do that exercise. So what that means is it depends on the exercise, how long you're going to need to rest to get your breath back. If you're doing barbell back squats and you're lifting half your body weight or more, you're probably going to need quite a long time to let your heart rate return back to normal level or just above normal, and your breath to come back to normal breathing. You can do a set of hard squats and be sat out of puff for a good 2 minutes before you start feeling like the fact that you're out of breath isn't going to be the thing that stops you from doing more squats. But if you're doing bicep curls, you can rest for like 15 seconds and you're ready to do the next set because you're not really working your total respiratory system as much as when you're using all of those big muscles in the body when you're doing barbell back squats versus using one or two small muscles in your arms to do bicep curls. So a general rule of thumb is to say you rest for as long as it takes to get your breath back. You can rest for longer, but you're wasting time at that point. You can rest for a shorter amount of time, but that's going to work your cardiovascular system and push that to the front of your priority list in terms of the thing that you're trying to work, which is fine if that's the aim. But what this therefore means is you want to rest between 30 seconds, maybe even shorter for the smaller muscles like biceps, all the way up to 5 minutes if you're doing something very heavy that's really going to gas you out. If you're resting for longer than that, you've probably got to do some specific cardiovascular work to stop you from getting so out of puff with just some resistance movements, for which I suggest bike, running, even a circuit of exercises like I was talking about before. Or just don't lift quite so heavy and do more workouts with lighter weight. And then that way you get the same amount of volume without having to lift so heavy that you have to rest for longer than 5 minutes at a time. Now, if you enjoy spending hours in the gym, chit-chatting to your friends, as long as you're not hogging the equipment and stopping other people from using it, you can rest for a long time in between sets and still get the benefits of the exercise when it comes to resistance training and training the muscle as opposed to your heart and lungs. But I don't know about you. I want to spend as little time in the gym as possible so I can get on with other stuff in my day. Now, I'd much rather socialize in a pub or over a cup of coffee rather than leaning on a weights machine in the gym. So how long should you rest between sets? Until you get your breath back, and not much longer than that if you can help it, unless you're doing cardiovascular training where you want to keep those rest times down so you stay at that point where you're breathing heavy for the entire time. And remember, the answer to all the questions is to stop asking questions until you start doing things in the real world and encountering problems which then prompt questions. So do things in the real world, get your workouts in, and rest for just enough time to get your breath back, then get back to the next set. See ya!